We'll start with Senator Sweeney. And this is a question that I've asked at these interviews just about every year. We've talked a lot about property taxes and improving the situation there. It's the biggest concern that New Jersey voters have in just about every poll, but progress has been difficult. How can we break this logjam?
As long as we have the volumes of government we have, it's going to be more expensive. We need to find ways to be much more efficient with tax dollars. I did it in Gloucester County as a freeholder director. We saved, through shared services, $30 million a year for our residents. That's their real dollars. And since I've left there, they've consolidated their jails to save another $14 million. There's ways of saving. It's not the end-all to be-all. There's other things that need to be done, but working together. And honestly, under this, the bigger problem is under this administration, they've slashed rebates. And, you know, although they say property taxes have gone up slightly, once you take into account the rebates that they slashed, it's much more dramatic.
You talked about consolidation, and we've had shared services, but we really haven't seen a lot in terms of reducing the number of municipalities. Is that something that there needs to be an incentive for? Listen,
I'm not even pushing for consolidations of communities, more of services. And look, it's not just on the municipal level. Again, I point to what Gloucester County did with closing all of its corrections facilities and moving the inmates to different facilities, going from $28 million in spending on corrections to $14 million. And actually, governments in other counties that were struggling, we solved their budget problem without them expanding. So there's ways of doing things smarter. It's just not on the municipal level. And Hudson and Union counties are actually piggybacking on what Gloucester did, and they're getting ready to do the same. So. And even South Jersey, they're talking about 6 or 7 counties coming together and create one corrections facility for all the counties because there's efficiencies. So it's not as much do away with the communities, but reduce the amount of government that's out there right now.
Yeah, I'll add something to that. First of all, the state doesn't collect $1 of property tax. It's all done at the municipal and school level, and in fact, state coffers return money to municipalities and schools in the form of various aid programs. But having said that, and the Senate President talked about Gloucester County, I can talk about Bergen County. We have 70 municipalities in Bergen County that run the gamut from a population of 14, Teterboro, to a population of 40,000 in the larger communities. So these levels of government are expensive to operate and we had, in addition to 70 municipalities and a county, we have 2 county police departments, which are now being corrected with the merging of the county police into the sheriff's office, which hopefully will save taxpayers a lot of money.
Senator Weinberg, you've been at the forefront of Port Authority reforms. Will the governor's veto of Port Authority reform be sustained?
Well, I'm an optimist, and hopefully I have reason to be, but we will soon see. You know, what I find very peculiar about these veto overrides, particularly from people who voted for and supported the original bill, is what is it about? Is it about actually getting a good law in place, or is it about the governor's tally sheet of the fact that he's never had a veto overridden? So what's important here, that he can put a gold star up there, or that we get a good, strong Port Authority reform bill? And I can't believe that, particularly with everything that's come out over the last number of months, that there is anybody on either side of the aisle who can sit there and look at themselves in the mirror and say, we shouldn't override this veto. We shouldn't have this law in place.
Is this reform bill the be-all and end-all, or are there other things that we can do to improve the Port Authority?
Well, I don't ever think anything is the be-all and the end-all, but it's certainly a giant step forward in terms of transparency and accountability and bringing the public into decisions. Some of these things have been changed under the new current leadership with John Dagnett, and I admire that. But just like the past leadership led us into this quagmire, we're going to have a different chairman in the future, different legislature, and that's why these things need to be in law.
And I want to add something to what Loretta talked about with the overrides. I think our Republican colleagues are very short-sighted because they vote on something that they read and understand and support, and then they vote basically against what they supported. And I remember some campaigns, he was for it before he was against it. You have a whole lot of Republicans that are tallying up vote after vote after vote. They're not looking at their future because every time they reverse themselves on behalf of the governor's wishes and not the people, and not supporting the wishes of the people, I think that's something that lives with you forever. Every vote you cast is there forever. So they're making enormous mistakes to protect the governor's position, which is absolutely wrong, at the Port Authority, to move in a direction of reform, which I thought was very common sense reform, that Senator Gordon and Senator Weinberg pushed forward, and to get a 600-0 vote in 2 states. I'm almost willing to make a bet that that's never happened anywhere.
Senator Sweeney, the Transportation Trust Fund is broke. How do we address our crumbling infrastructure?
Well, first, what we have to do is build a plan that's going to improve transportation, not just maintain it. For me, it's insane just to put it back the way it was, because that's what we do now. We just rebuild the bridge, we rebuild it, we lay the asphalt down, so the same congestion that was on that highway or that road is still there when you fix it. It's just a smoother ride. It's investment in light rail in Hudson-Bergen, which my majority leader has made very clear that there won't be a TTF without that, and I support that. But light rail in the southern part of the state, freight rail, it's a healthy enough plan that actually fixes and improves. New Jersey's a logistics state, and we're losing even that edge because who's coming to New Jersey without any funding? So, and I've said this, look, it's going to cost money. No matter what we do, there's no way of sugarcoating it, it's going to cost. But the most important thing is that we ensure that every single penny is protected for the purpose it's being raised. The people have a right to be skeptical. It's our job to earn their trust on this by demonstrating and building a lockbox that it can't be used for anything but, and that you can't refinance it to extend the debt, which is one of the problems we had. But you can refinance it if interest rates are improved, because under this administration, we have the lowest interest, our bond rating, I think, in history, or close to. So the positive is our bond rating is going to improve once he leaves. And once he leaves, we'll be able to refinance and take those savings and put them back into the program, not to extend debt and not for the budget.
Senator Weinberg, in your neck of the woods, you've been quoted as saying that the closing of the Izod Center is political, and you've asked for some financial data. What exactly are you looking for?
Well, the first thing I'm looking for is that they follow the Open Public Meetings Act. This was done in a completely inappropriate way, no public notice. In fact, the commissioners themselves didn't know about it until the night before. The second thing I'm looking for is where did this $8 million shortfall figure come from? Every figure, I've seen no figures that even come close to that in a shortfall. In fact, the financials that they themselves distributed to their own commission in November, a month and a half before they took this ill-advised step, shows in 2013, it showed the Izod Center as having lost $12,000 only because they hadn't completed bookings. Then the manner in which they did it, I finally got a copy of the contract that they signed with Prudential. Things like handing over to Prudential, which by the way is a privately owned arena, privately owned building, they handed over to them I think it's a 600,000 data list of all the ticket buyers there. Well, that's a public asset that needs to be put up for bid. And again, if the Sports Authority doesn't want to run the IZOD Center, let them put out a request for proposal and see if somebody else does. But to shutter it for 2 years and then claim it's going to be as valuable at the end of 2 years is patently ridiculous. So they did it wrong. I have seen nothing to back up the public figures that have been released. And I have a general rule: if something publicly is being done under cover of night, there must be something wrong with it.
You've talked about extending casino gaming to North Jersey, and at the same time, Atlantic City is suffering. What does casino gaming in North Jersey do for Atlantic City, and what other things can be done for the people of Atlantic City?
First, Atlantic City has seen obviously very, very much turbulence and trouble. But that's because they didn't move rapidly enough and didn't take advantage of what they had, which was time, before the expansion of gaming in every state. So they didn't reinvest, they didn't do anything, they just took out of the city. And obviously, all your eggs in one basket is a very bad formula, and that's what we have in Atlantic City. Atlantic City will fix itself, and we have a mayor down there that's working very hard. We are working together to stabilize Atlantic City, but casinos in the northern part of the state will absolutely benefit Atlantic City because we feel that we're losing $1.5 billion a year to convenience gamers. Convenience gamers are people that won't drive from Bergen County to Atlantic City because it's 2.5 hours, because they're not looking for a show, they're not looking for an event, they're not looking for dinner, they're looking to gamble, so they're going to go to the closest casino. So, the Sands, Parks, and Aqueduct, 45% of the gamblers in those facilities are all from New Jersey. We feel we can recapture $1.5 billion that's seeping out of the state right now by facilitating a couple properties in northern New Jersey. And if you tax it at 50%, it's a lot of money that's coming back into the state coffers. $250 million of which would go to Atlantic City, to a nonprofit, not to the government, to reestablish, recreate, and really fix, make Atlantic City the resort destination that it really should be. So the real benefit is resources that Atlantic City desperately needs in order to strengthen it, because the casinos can't do it. The casinos have diluted their own product. You saw Harrah's file bankruptcy because they built everywhere, and whenever they say they're going to open up a casino market, they're building. And they feel they're protecting their interests, but all they're doing is weakening themselves, and that's why they file bankruptcy. So casinos in the northern part of the state, I think, are a very big part of the solution. And that wasn't easy for me to say, especially where I live. My district borders Atlantic City, but we can't have our heads in the sand anymore. We need to find solutions, and we're going to have that conversation, and I'll be working with my majority leader and other members to come up with a good plan.
Okay. Let's end it with a couple of political questions. Senator Weinberg, Bonnie Watson-Coleman is the first woman in New Jersey's congressional delegation in a decade, yet she's outnumbered by 13 men. How can we get more women elected to Congress?
Well, I've devoted a fair part of my career to encouraging women running for office. And we have some terrific programs here with the Center for American Women in Politics, with the Ready to Run program that they do each year, with Emerge, with things like Emily's List, Women's Political Caucus. So we have to get out there and teach young girls that a career in public service is worthwhile, that it's a great way for them to really influence their environment and their coming families. And very recently I spoke to the West Coast version of Ready to Run, which is a training session for young women. And I brought along with me my granddaughter and a young friend of hers. And when we were talking about women role models, the middle school friend raised her hand and she said, "Our student council president is a girl, and it makes me feel comfortable." So I thought, well, she kind of summed it up for everybody, this young girl. So I think anything and everything we can do, and, you know, our county organizations, with all due respect, my Senate president is not like that, but it's dominated mostly by men. County leaders, I think we've got 2 or 3 women county leaders on both sides, Republican and Democrat. So you have to make it a little bit more welcoming to women, and I think we're making strides. We've moved up in the legislature. I am absolutely delighted with watching Bonnie Watson Coleman. I served with her in the Assembly. We share a birthday, so some years apart, but the same day. So I feel a real kinship, and it's a great joy to finally see a woman, and an African-American woman at that, in our congressional delegation. She will improve the environment among her colleagues.
Okay, final question for Senator Sweeney. It's been 2 decades since we've had a governor from South Jersey. Is it time for a change?
I think it's time to have a Democrat. It's definitely time for a change from what we have right now. We have a governor that's focused on national politics and not the state, and it's really harming the state. From transportation trust to women's health care to property tax relief to improving the economy. We need a change. We need a Democrat, and hopefully the best Democrat that we have out there will win.
Senator Sweeney, Senator Weinberg, thank you.